Welcome to the Winter Sports season premiere of This Week in Loveland Tigers Athletics here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports and lovelandtigers.org. I'm Jason Griefer, excited to welcome back Athletic Director Brian Knatzer. Brian, good to talk to you once again. Tiger Nation, are they fired up for winter sports?
Jason, first of all, it's good to see you, and I'm just glad to be here. And I think I speak for everyone here at Tiger Nation. Everyone's excited. Winter sports is kicking, and it's live, and we're having a great time and enjoying it while we can.
Yeah, and we've got a lot to talk about here today because you've got a lot of teams that are already in the swing of things, and that's certainly a good thing thus far. Let's get right into it, and let's start in the bowling lanes, and let's start with the boys. They're off to a rip-roaring start, so to speak. 10-1 on the year, 9-1 in the ECC. The lone loss coming to West Claremont, who's unbeaten right now, but still a long way to go in the season. That match was back on December 1st, and you're going to see West Claremont coming up. How much have you seen, since that first matchup and now leading into the second one where you've got a chance for revenge? How much have you, the coaches, and even the bowlers seen themselves grow and improve? And do they feel it's enough to get back at West Claremont and try and win that league title?
Jason, they are ready. I will tell you, the game you're referring to, they were a little disappointed in themselves. They played a little tight, and so I think they have a lot to prove. I'll tell you, this group is a fun group to watch. I mean, they are enthusiastic. They're loud. They work well together. Coach Adams really gets them fired up. I mean, the Pins get knocked down and they stay down. We just had a great match versus Little Miami High School yesterday at Eastgate Lanes, and it came down to really the last bit of the Pins, and these kids they're all fired up. But I'm gonna name drop here if you don't.
Sure.
If you don't mind. Monty Noel, who's led the way yesterday with 412 pins, and I got, Joey Kapsakavich. He was at 386 yesterday in the number of pins. He's averaging a 201. Sharon Peacock had 377 yesterday, and Alton French with a 359. So these guys are that good. They're up for the team of the week in Cincinnati.com. Joey Kapsakavich is up for the player of the week for that bowling team. As you mentioned, tomorrow, Wednesday, versus West Claremont. So big match for our guys. So we're pretty excited. I do have to give a shout out, Jason, to what we call our LAB stream team, not the dream team, but the stream team. We've got guys, if you get on Loveland Athletic Boosters and check out the bowling streaming, we've got a couple parents that are doing an outstanding job that are involved in our boosters. But everybody's into it, a lot of fun. So check us out on stream.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's certainly good to have that resource available because, in a normal season, you're going to have fans there at the lanes and going nuts and all that kind of stuff and really encouraging the kids along. So at least folks still do get to see it and cheer from a distance there as well. Let's move on and talk about the girls. Coming off a league title a year ago, things have been a little bit tougher this year. Lebanon's come into the ECC and in a lot of different sports, kind of taking the ECC by storm, and they're off to a good start as well. You're sitting mid-pack right now, and I'm looking at some of the results coming in as the season's gone along. Right now sitting just above the 500 mark on the season, but we're looking at a loss to Turpin by 6 pins. St. Ursula, you're right there with them the entire way. Kings was tight early on, and then you bounce back, as of late, beating Anderson, Little Miami. So they've been right there in seemingly every match as it's gone along all year long here. But, turning the corner here, winning some over the last few weeks there. Do you get the sense now that after they're kind of a up and down start at the start of the season, they're starting to turn the corner?
Yeah, I think Coach Gorgon's got him pointed in the right direction. As you mentioned, middle of the pack, but a lot of close pin scores. I mean, they are right there. As you mentioned, just above 500. We look to swing that in the second half of the season. Obviously, they're committed to do that. With Ashley Gilker leading the way, I think she's averaging around 175. But they also have West Claremont, tomorrow as well. So I think that's going to be a good challenge for them. West Claremont, again, one of the top I think the second school, if I'm correct, in the ECC.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives us an opportunity to kind of prove ourselves and to redirect ourselves in the second half of the season. So I have full confidence in them. They're exciting to watch. They're having a lot of fun, and go Tigers.
Joe, let's jump into the pool real quick here, and let's talk about we can talk really about both the boys and the girls, because and the reason why I say that is because you look at the results thus far, both not only as a team in relays, but also as individuals, and we're seeing a lot of Tigers towards the top of the ECC and a lot of different distances as well, and that's even more impressive. They can do it at different distances, 200, 500, what have you. Who has stood out to you at this point in the season, the boys or the girls? And when you see these results come in, and when they see the results come in, when the boys see the girls' results or the girls see the boys' results come in, does that give them sort of an extra drive and maybe a little bit of inner competition between the two schools, or between the two teams, I should say?
Oh, they're good, solid teammates. They work well together and they push each other, to be successful. Per your point, I will add, Jason, it's kind of such an interesting year with COVID with swim, and
Yeah.
I just want to shout out to the parents that are doing such a great job of just, they understand they can't go to a lot of these events, and we're trying to find out ways for them to work clocks or whatever it is, try to get someone to stream some games. So we're working really hard on that, to get parents there. But to your point, yeah, we've got some Loveland Tigers rising up to the top. I'm gonna throw out a couple names and a couple events,
Mm-hmm.
but the names you asked that stick out to me, obviously, Evan Lucas, who the 100 fly, the 50 and 100 free, the 200 medley. I mean, he's right on top. Colin Blackbird with the 200 medley and the 100 backstroke. Those two names on the boys' sides are just really tearing it up in the water. And I'm going to give Sarah Lally a couple props here in the 200 medley,
Mm-hmm.
the 50 free, and the 100 fly, and the 100 breaststroke. So those three seniors are doing a great job, taking care of business, and enjoying their senior year.
How has training gone for them in preparation for the season? And now that we're into the season, in between meets, you wonder with, at this level, the availability of facilities, the ability to train as a group, if they can do that, if they have to work more individually, what's that process been like?
I mean, we're facing that. That's a real, I don't want to say problem, because we're problem solving through it. There's
Sure.
some days we're getting up at 4 a.m. and we're in the pool by 5, and then, back to the classroom, at the beginning of school. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times we have to rely, on the club time. And we have to rely on just, whatever we can get. And it's obviously, it's very interesting. They're grinding it out, and I'm proud of them. And we'll keep doing what we do.
So they're one of the teams, like many, that have had challenges in trying to get this full season in. One of the teams that you have that I would imagine would maybe have less stress in trying to compete in a full season is your academic team. Because in theory, you don't have to necessarily be in close quarters to try and prepare and study and train for that. But right now, like 4 matches under their belt, they're sitting right at 500 there, and then still a long way to go in the season. Of course, has it been close to anything close to a normal season for them? Have they had any kind of obstacles like that they've had to work through?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. They're not having parents at their events either. But the kids are rallying around one another. We just hosted our first home meet, and it was a good time. We hosted Little Miami. We're able to make it happen. The kids are just glad to be a part of it. I'll give a special shout out to Ryan Smith, who is basically, she's the mother hen of that team that's really rallying the team and getting everybody the best out of everybody. And she definitely helped me a lot with setup on on the academic team. But it's a lot of fun, and we go against Kings this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited about that. And we're just knocking them away meet by meet, so once a week. Jason, I will also say it would be remiss if I did not mention on swim and not talk
Mm-hmm.
about my dive folks,
Yeah.
because those same sorts of things that they're facing. Callie Egan, Morgan Eversole, Sam Mueller, and Sydney Keel. These girls are wherever there's an open board, we're getting to. It's very difficult. We're either going to Northern Kentucky or we're going around here as best we can. So we're giving everything we can to provide that opportunity for them, and they're doing a fine job. So I want to give them a shout out, and
Yeah.
they have their competitions coming up on a weekly basis. Actually, we've got one this Friday. So we'll see. ECCs are not that far around the corner. So
And to that point, you've obviously everybody's had to make a lot of adjustments, some more than others, of course. You mentioned some of the divers there, maybe having to cross the river to go to Northern Kentucky just to try to get some practice in, get some time on the boards in. How has their attitude been during this? Are they do you sense some frustration with them, or right now are they just excited just to have the ability to compete?
well, kids are resilient. It's us that's not, or the adults, and that they just kids, you point them in a direction, they want to be led, you provide the opportunity for them, they show up, and they compete hard, and they compete well. So we're very fortunate to have the kids that we do. So proud of them.
Yeah, and then they're off to a good start. They've got a long season to go. Knock on wood, and we can get through all of it there as we move along here in the winter sports season premiere. Let's talk about your cheer team. They're getting going just like a lot of other schools are getting going here. Obviously, it's a little different than what we normally think of with cheerleading, being in all the sporting events and whatnot. But take us through what's going on with cheerleading right now.
Yeah, so obviously cheer looks a little bit different because our gym's a little bit smaller. So our sideline cheer, we've got them on the baseline. They're doing a fantastic job. They're cheering in masks on the baselines. I'm going to give them a lot of props. That is very difficult, and they're doing a fantastic job. They're troopers, and as soon as there's a timeout or there's a halftime, or they get to come onto the floor, they can take their mask off at that point and do their things. But shout out to their parents as well, who've been supported throughout this time. Our competitive cheer is working very hard as well. They just did a halftime performance this past week in preparation for the ECCs coming on down the road. But Coach Shipman and Coach Chrisman Masters now are doing a fantastic job leading those girls. But I do want to give a shout out to Emily Chrisman Masters, who rang the bell again, I believe it was yesterday, for her last cancer treatment, which we've talked about on this show before.
Excellent.
The last treatment for breast cancer. She is just a great human being. So we're just very fortunate to have her and her way of life to just leading these young women, and very, very proud of her. So all the best.
And hopefully for her, it is the final bell, and we don't have to worry about that again going forward for her, for sure. Let's move on to the wrestling mat here, and you got a lot of strong performers here going right now, and it is in a sport where a lot of people, and myself included, figured it was going to be one of the more difficult ones to try to pull off because everybody's in proximity. You can't social distance really when you're on the mat. You can work around it on the outside, but when you get to the mat, it's one-on-one. And I'm looking at some of the results coming in here. Jared Mendoza, Tristan Greydrix, Sawyer Bowen, 9-1 at 285. You got 5 others with at least 6 wins. So you've got depth across the roster in all these different weight classes. How has the coaching staff been able to pull such consistency out of your wrestlers from all these different weight classes, given the fact of what they have to work with around them right now?
Well, I think you just hit the head on the nail. I mean, it's the coaching staff. Chris Schweitzer, the head varsity wrestling coach, obviously has a great staff here at the high school, but also our middle school athletic director, Jason Bruce, and Chris put together some fine coaches at our middle school. Coach Hart, Coach Redmond. I mean, those are varsity coaches, really. Yeah. At the junior high level, just preparing these kids. A lot of success down there at the junior high. So, and this just didn't happen overnight. This has been ongoing, and they've been working through it. And you get that type of, and really, to be honest with you, Jason, below that is our youth program. Mm-hmm. So again, that's really the feeder into the junior high, which comes into us, which allows for those strong weight classes. And you're right, people like our 113 Brett Hogan, 120 Ty Harder. 132 Jake Case with 6 pins, Mendoza 8 pins, Greater X I think you said he had 5 pins, and so does Bowen has 5 pins with great records to boot as well. So I think we're 7th in the city right now. Wrestled Lakota East just last week. Tough match, came down to the final 1 or 2 matches. They're doing, we've kind of pivoted as soon as we found out that we were able to host some duels. We've been doing that. So on Thursday, we've got Lebanon coming to our house. We've hosted Sycamore here as well. We've got Turbine coming up, but we're going to host our Loveland duels, where we have actually 6 groups that show up, and obviously no spectators, but we'll stream it out the best we can. But just giving an opportunity for kids to hit the mat and to wrestle. So that's what builds our strength, and I think we got to continually find ways to allow kids to have access to wrestling strong teams. So I think we're doing the best we can for them.
And they're doing a very good job of that. Your wrestlers are on the season. Let's move on to the hardwood. Let's start talking about boys basketball first. Kind of mid pack right now in the ECC, and this is a tough league. You know that throughout the years there. They're 3-4 in the league, 5-6 overall, and dropped 3 straight. The first of which to a very good Mason team. Everybody knows how good Mason is every year. And then the last 2 games, you go on the road against Turpin, right there the entire way. They get you by 6. Last time out, Lebanon gets you in overtime. So you're right there with some of the better teams in the league right now. How does that work how does that affect the mindset of your team right now, knowing that they're right there with some of the top tier teams in the ECC? Do they look at it as a kind of a frustrating point, or encouraging going forward that, hey, just a bounce here, a tip ball there, and we're on the other side of this thing?
Yeah, I think that's it. They just gotta. There's lots of room for improvement. I mean, they've prepared. They've been, in here all summer. They've been in the weight room. They've done all the things they had to do. They're committed. They're all part of a team. It's a big program, and it's just finishing. I mean, they're in every game, as you mentioned. I mean, that was a triple overtime against Lebanon. I mean, either way, flip a coin. It was going either way. Mm-hmm. It was exciting. Again, we went into with the Turpin game you're speaking of, and we were heading into the 4th. We were in the lead. So it just comes down to finishing, and they're fully capable of doing that. I mean, we've got leaderboard. We're on the leaderboard with assist, Addison Hearn, field goal percentage, Pete Kraft, who is definitely he's a force inside. Yeah. And Aaron Kraybacher, what a shot. He can nail the 3-pointers. I mean, he's leading in rebounds on the leaderboard in rebounds. So we're excited for them. I think this is, they can just finish, and who knows where we'll end up in this tough league, as you mentioned. But we have a game tonight versus Aiken, our JV and varsity do. And then Friday night, we're heading out to Anderson for another tough one. So again, it's anybody's now heading into the second half.
Do you feel that way, that this league right now is sort of wide open for the taking for anybody to go up and grab the title?
Well, I will tell you this. Ending up in the top 3, the top half of it, I think is I don't want to say it's anybody's, but I mean, I do think, it's went back and forth. You had, Walnut, handed it to us, and the next thing Lebanon handed it to Walnut, and then we could have beat Lebanon. So it's kind of this back and forth kind of deal. So I don't want to say it's out of anyone's ability, but I think the second half is going to have a big impact on where this all falls.
Let's wrap up the season premiere. Let's talk about your girls basketball team, and my gosh, have they looked dominant thus far on the season? They're 12-1 overall. They're 8-0 in the league. You're winning league games by about 20 points per night. You've only given up 50 points or more twice on the season, so it's just hard to score on them as they've shown throughout the season. We'll talk about Coach Parker here in just a moment, but I want to focus on the team itself first of all. When you see and when they see every single night that they can hold teams to in the 30s, in the 40s, sometimes in the 20s, how big of a confidence boost is that for them, knowing that they can win on any given night, even if the shots aren't falling on the offensive end, that they know in the back of their minds, we're one of the best defensive teams in the area?
Yeah, you just actually said it. It's defense, right? This team loves the press, and they're going to bring the pressure, and they do a good job with that. And you're going to have to be able to get the ball in and pass it around to get it past half court. But these girls are aggressive. and they will continue to be aggressive almost the entire game, until, Coach Parker decides to pull it off. But it is, they're all in. And I think it starts with defense, and then obviously the offensive skills come from there. I mean, we've got to, you look at, our sophomore, Olivia Raby, who's on the leaderboard for blocks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's a young pup and doing an outstanding job, and a big career ahead of her.
Yeah.
Steals. I mean, if I say, name Jenna Batch, I mean, I think it's almost becoming a household name now in the ECC. But I mean, leading in steal, or on the leaderboard with steals,
Yep.
and scoring. I mean, one of the best looking shots in the league. So, and I think we've got point guards to boot on that. We've just got a well-surrounded team. We've got a bench that could come out and come on the floor and take care of business. So, yeah, I think it just all starts with that defense, and then we fill it in with our offense.
And finally, as we're wrapping up here the show today, the mantra all year long for this team in particular, and I'm sure around the rest of the school, has been Parker Strong. And head coach and supportive head coach Darnell Parker, who's everybody knows he's battling stage 4 colon and liver cancer. Everything from I've seen on online, on social media, you can't find a more positive, uplifting guy than him. And it just seems like, from an outsider's perspective, his approach to attacking this treatment and going forward has been remarkable and a model for a lot of people who are going through certain tough challenges like he is. Can you just take a minute or two, kind of talk to us about Coach Parker, how he's doing, what he's been able to do this season, both on and off the court, and what kind of impact that's had on you and the Loveland community?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just start with, I mean, he is a real superhero to our kids, right? I mean, and just to us and Tiger Nation. Obviously, it's hard to even put, yourself in what he does. I mean, just to go through days where he has chemo and then to come at night and coach. I mean, he doesn't take the time off. I think this is for him, what he's alluded to. This is what gets him through these times. This is where he wants to be outside of his family. He considers this his extended family. He's here coaching the girls. His staff is ready at any time, to help out, but he's always on the floor. You wouldn't know a difference from, last year to this year. He's the same person. He's still riding the officials. He's still giving it, his all. His team is still performing at a high level, and that's just not on game day. And it's what I see, at practice.
Sure.
When you go in the gyms, I mean, he's getting the most out of his kids. There's no time to feel sorry for yourself. It's just moving on. He's got a purpose. It's very purposeful in every one of his actions that he does. And it's, we couldn't be more thrilled to have someone like him on our staff. Obviously the impact that he has, not just within our Tiger Nation community, but you've seen it on Twitter, you follow it on Twitter. It's impactful. Yeah. Everyone has, something to say to him, how he's inspiring, or how he's inspiring someone else, or just how much faith they have in him. So, I mean, it's very seldom that, you get somebody like that, that you get to work alongside and you get to see, watch, and mold young women. But Coach Parker really is a phenomenal human being, and just really a superhuman.
And all the more, and to see the girls reward him with such a brilliant season thus far. Still a long way to go, of course, but 12-1 overall, and 8-0 in the league. It's incredible.
And Jason, I just gotta send a thank you to a lot of the ECC schools that, I mean, we go to their place, like, for example, Turpin. We'll show up at Turpin, and they've got Parker Strong shirts on. I mean, it's just the support that's been given, across the board through all of our schools, both in conference and out of conference. Just regionally has been outstanding. So, and a person like Coach Darnell Parker, I mean, he's just, he's that special.
He is, and we'll certainly be talking about him and his team a lot more as we go on through the winter sports season. Brian, certainly appreciate the time here today, and looking forward to it in the weeks to come.
Jason, thanks for having me again. Super thrilled to be here. Look forward to the rest of the season. And I want to say to all Tiger Nation, go Tigers.
There you go. That is Loveland Athletic Director Brian Knatzer joining us for the winter season premiere of This Week in Loveland Tigers Athletics here on lovelandtigers.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.